Okay, everybody, we are about ready to be finished with the school year. It is May, and we are focusing on the word whose. And whose can be confusing, but if you understand the part of speech it falls into and where it hits with our wordings, then you're going to be able to put that and write with the word whose correctly. So we're going to actually start with understanding effect and effect. How do we say it? Effect. This turns to schwa because this is our Latin root and it is the accented syllable. And this says effect, 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 effect. But when we speak really fast, they almost sound like the exact same words. So people don't really hear that as much as when you're speaking, but when you are writing, you need to make sure that you are spelling the correct word because they have different meanings. So what's the difference between them? Look at the prefix. So effect, the base, your Latin root, means make or do. See, make or do. That is your Latin root. Effect. Effect. Now let's put our prefix on it. When you're putting a prefix on a root, it changes what it really means with this. It means effect means to or toward the make or do. To or toward the make or do. And the EF, this prefix, means out or away from. So if you can remember some of your prefixes and what your Latin root really means, that's going to help you understand how to properly use these in a sentence. It's also important for you to understand what this means. Someone is being affected. That means a person is being affected. Look. It's going toward the person, right? Toward the person. Something is being affected. It is going toward something. Now, effect means it's a consequence. Effect, see how you can't even hear it when you're speaking it very well. Effect is a consequence. Now, this means results. Something is done. It's an outcome. It's an imperative. It's an influence. It's an appearance. It's an end. It's virtually, and it means it's accomplished. If you can really remember that it's a consequence and it brings results. Now, effect, they can both of these can be verbs. Now, when you're using it just all by itself, it's going to sit in the simple present tense. Just all by itself. What tense is this? The simple present tense. There's not an auxiliary verb or anything like that unless you are putting an ed or an ing onto that. Now, it's also a transitive verb. Do you guys remember what transitive means? So if it's a transitive verb, trans means across, and it's transferring it to what? A direct object. An intransitive verb means it doesn't have a direct object, but a transitive verb means that this, if you're using effect as a verb, it's going to have a direct object with it. Now, look, what effect causes a change. Now think of that. Effect causes a change. Emotionally, present in someone, it's an influence, someone or something, it's an emotion, a false appearance, a quality of attitude, an affection. I like how you think about as an affection because if you give an affection to somebody, it causes a change. Most of the time when you think of affection, you're thinking of love and charity and all of those type of things, and it causes a really good change in somebody or something. This is a simple present tense. If you're using this all by itself, it's going to be the simple present tense. Now, effect, now what do we put the plural on it? Is it still the simple present tense? It is, but you have to do the third person, she, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we don't use that, let's do I. Okay, remember that. When you put the S on a verb, I want you guys to remember this. If you are using them as verbs, if you are using affect and effect as verbs, adjust your thinking. Adjust what you want it to say when you're using it as a verb. If you're using them as verbs, adjust your thinking. Know what they actually do. Understand the difference in their meaning. Affect is a verb almost always. Do you see that? The word affect is a verb almost always. It describes experiences, influence, it's a condition, have an impact, it's, we infect, okay? But look what affect is. Most of the time, a noun almost always. So that's going to help you do this correctly. Affect is almost always a verb, and effect is almost always a noun. So, affect, words that refer to a noun. They're consequences. Affect is almost always what?
A verb.
An effect is almost always a noun. So that's going to help you, but you need to remember they can still both be nouns and both be verbs. So be careful with that. They can both be nouns and they can both be verbs. So be careful. But most of the time, affect is a verb and effect is a noun. So I actually wrote this sentence about Daniel because he pushes himself really physically hard. Pushing yourself too hard affects the immune system. See right here, affects the immune system. See how it's a verb, and we're using the S right there. And sometimes the effect is illness. See how now we have it as a noun. See how this is a noun, and this affects is a verb. But that doesn't mean you can't use this as a verb and a noun. As Daniel whizzes through the house cleaning, the effect of the house affects my heart because of his kindness. Now look, this is your noun. Look, noun, effect. So look, there's a consequence that's going to happen. This is doing results right here. But this, look, it affects my heart. It's doing something to me. I am a person. It's doing something to me. It's affecting my heart because of your kindness. See the difference? So see how, but this is a noun and this is a verb. See, look, see this, since this is singular, this is your singular verb with the S right there. Now, do you guys see that? The effect right here is a result or a consequence. The result or a consequence is that it affects my heart in a positive way. This, see right here, it's coming towards me, right? It's emotionally. It's affecting me emotionally. We're influencing. Because of this effect that you've done, it's influencing me and making me love you even more. We're switching gears. Now we're going to talk about the prefix re right here. Talking about re. And re-entry, do we need a hyphen? If there is any chance you think the reader will be confused, use the hyphen with the prefix re, which means again. So sometimes you need the hyphen and sometimes you do not. Now with re, oftentimes if you have a double E right here, you would need a hyphen, but not always. So if you are confused about a hyphen with the word re, check it out, look it up, make sure you are using it properly. Don't be confused. Hyphen or no hyphen. Sometimes you need a hyphen in here, and sometimes you do not. But oftentimes with the double E, you will need a hyphen. So like this one, re-entry, You sometimes need the hyphen and sometimes you don't. This, you would need the hyphen oftentimes. Most words are not written with hyphens. So most of the time you don't even have to worry about it. Unless you are using an adjective and you're sitting it in the attributive position. And that is right before the noun. But you need to be very careful with your hyphen when you're using the prefix re. But it can do some confusing things if you're not careful. Are there special rules for hyphens? Yes, there are special rules for hyphens. Capitalizing with hyphens, like look at this word. Follow up. This is a hyphenated word. It's functioning as an adjective. And then you have your noun. So this would be in the attributive position. But look at this. Follow up. Follow up. Are they capitalized? Now this is what I want you guys to know about capitalization for these. Sometimes people capitalize it. There are differences of opinion. If you capitalize these, some people think you should and some people think you shouldn't. So make sure that you're understanding what you need to capitalize and what you don't for the paper that you're writing. Make sure you double check your work if you are unsure. Check for examples. If you're like, should that be capitalized? Should that be hyphenated? I don't know. But look, capitalize proper nouns of hyphenated words. Make sure you're capitalizing the proper nouns of hyphenated words. No matter what, your proper noun needs to be capitalized. So look at news articles. Pick a style. There's different styles out there. Should I capitalize this? Should both words be capitalized? No matter what, your proper noun is capitalized in a hyphenated word. But pick a style. Choose the style your job or school wants. You find out what they want. There's different styles out there, but you pick one. Now, the most used style is the casual style. If you want to look into about hyphens and stuff and you want them embedded in your mind, study casual style. They are more popular than the other styles. But we're not going to go into all of the different styles. You just need to know that you need to be aware of the hyphen and you have to be aware of capitalization. No matter what, capitalize proper nouns though. Make sure that you understand what your job or your school wants and you use it. And sometimes it's just the professor. Sometimes the professor wants you to use the hyphen or the capitalization a certain way. You need to find out what the professor wants. But the job probably will be the same the whole way around. So we talked about the casual style. That's the most popular, right? So casual style, we're just going to briefly go over what it could be. It's the first word is capitalized. Nouns are capitalized. So we're talking about titles. The first word's capitalized no matter what in the title. Proper nouns are capitalized. Rules might be coordinating conjunctions, your articles, your small prepositions are not capitalized. They're kind of skirted over. So what skirted means, they're kind of attempted to be ignored. So these small little words, on, the, that are in titles, then you don't capitalize them. Make sure you're looking at published work because there's different styles, different requirements for those different styles that you need to make sure that you know what you're supposed to do for the style that you've chosen. So make sure that you look at published work. For hyphenated works, for capitalization issues, make sure that you're checking out your published work for both of those. It can be very confusing. It's a gray area for the rules. You can't just say, I'm going to do this and make sure it's correct. You need to make sure what your school or professor or your job, your business wants, and you choose what they want. We're going to talk about the attributive position again. We've spoken about that, but I'm just reiterating and trying to remind you. Do you guys remember what the attributive position is? What?
Adjective before the noun.
Yes, exactly. So it's the adjective before the noun. So it's important to understand the adjective before the noun is the attributive position. So if you have a compound, those need to be hyphenated if they come before the noun, if they're sitting in the attributive position. And it also means really right next to the noun. But most of the time we look at them as single words or compound words as before. The ones that come after are prepositional phrases. Attributive position, adjectives before the noun. They're hyphenated compound words, numbers, and measurements. Before, that's what you call it. Look at this example. My 14-year-old son loves to play basketball. That would be Paul. Now look at this. See how I have hyphenated these words right here. Most of the time though, you're going to spell out 14. But when it's something like this, it would be better to do it and hyphenate here. Now 14-year-old is what?
An adjective.
That's your adjective. And that's why this is hyphenated, because this is kind of like a compound word, right? But it has numbers right here. And it's describing son. So my son, which is 14 years old, loves to play basketball. But see, look what happened here. It's not in the attributive position. It's not before the noun. So it's not hyphenated. So remember, that's one of the rules for hyphenations. It can be very confusing. Find the style that you like and stick with it unless instructed otherwise. So just find the style that you like and stick with it. Your first word is always capitalized in titles and major words after that first word. But so look at this title right here. 21st Century History. This is a title. So we have our first word, and then look, these are hyphenated. So here is your number. Here's your numbers, 21st century. And most of the time, we do not write them out like this and hyphenate them like that. But since this is a title, it stands out. It looks good. So you can totally do something like this. But if you're writing it out in a body, in a paper or something, in a sentence, which one do you think you should do right here? 21st century or 21st century? Which one should you do? This one? This one?
Yeah.
It's this one.
In a body of a sentence?
Yep. If you're writing it in a body of a sentence, you would say 21st century, not 21st century. You would say.
You said in my thing to do it.
Not if you're doing it in ordinal numbers. See how if you have to use an ordinal number, then so that's different. That's what's different, sweetheart. So since this is an ordinal number, see 21st. Now if it's a regular number, it's better to write it out until it hits a certain number. If it's huge, you don't write it out. If you're talking about numbers when you're doing math and stuff like that, or money or anything, that should never be written out. I shouldn't say never, but it's best not to. But if you're talking about it being in an ordinal number, the 21st. Which one's correct?
No, last one.
21st century. 21st century, not this one. But you can do it like this in a title and it looks fantastic. Here's the rule for hyphenating this right here, or spelling it out. Do not spell out any number larger than the 9th when you're using ordinal numbers. So after the 9th, 10th, 11th, 16th, 17th, what are ordinal numbers? Do you guys understand what ordinal numbers are? Mm-hmm. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. You're using that second, third. Those are considered ordinal numbers, and you spell them out before. First can be spelled out, second spelled out, third spelled out, but anything after, you should just write them out like this. They just get really big. Now, if they're regular numbers, Daniel, like 19, you just write it out. But what if we say 21? You would write it out, but what do we do? Hyphenate it. Okay? Do you know that, Polly? Then you would hyphenate that. If we say 21, you hyphenate it. But do we hyphenate 19?
No.
No. Let's go back to our prefix re. Be careful with the prefix re, which means again. What does re mean?
Again.
Again. What does it mean? Again. But it could have a different meaning. So you need to be really careful with the prefix re. Most of the time, you're not going to have to worry about it. But every now and then, you do. So let's look at this. So we need to be careful with it because sometimes it needs to be hyphenated because it will have a different meaning. So these are examples on when you should hyphenate, when you don't need to hyphenate, but most of the time you're not going to hyphenate. You need to retake your test. Now this right here, it means again. If there's not confusion with this word, do you know what retake means right here?
Do it.
You're taking your test again. If there's not confusion right there, you do not hyphenate. So look at these two. You need to redo the terribly hung wallpaper. So does it need to be hyphenated or not? You need to redo the old wallpaper. Is there confusion?
Yeah.
If you think there could be confusion here, personally, I don't think there could be confusion. If this one means you just hung it, you need to redo it again. It looks terribly. But here you need to redo the wallpaper because it looks bad and it's old. I honestly don't think there's confusion, so I do not feel you really need the hyphen in there. But some people might think so. But look at this sentence. There is no confusion here. You know, did you recover the dining room chairs? Did you recover the dining room chairs? So what does this mean? Did you recover the dining room chairs? Look, recover right here could mean that they were stolen, the chairs were taken, and you got them back. Did you recover them? If that's what you're meaning, then you do not use the hyphen. This is where if you think that there could be confusion, you'd use the hyphen. Look, did you recover them again? Like we recovered our dining room chairs, my aunt's old chairs. Did we recover them? Recovered the chairs again? So this is where you could have total confusion and I would put a hyphen there. And cover is one of those words, recover is one of those words where you will have confusion. Did you see her remark on your report? Did you see her remark on your report? See how this could be confusing. So this could be a remark that she wrote, a remark on your report. Something good, something bad. You did great, you did poorly, you need to do this. Or did you see her remark after somebody marked it again, and then did you see her go back in and remark all of these mistakes on your report? So see how right here she went back and remarked it again. Here is a remark, a suggestion. See how this can be really confusing? If there is confusion, use a hyphen. You only use a hyphen if there's confusion. You don't need a hyphen if there's not confusion. But if there is, can you see the difference right here? So now we're going into another section and we're going to talk about the word who, and then we're going to go into whom. I didn't have enough room for this. Now, this is a completely different topic. The character in the movie that touched my heart the most was Richard. Okay, now look at this. Now, I want you to tell me what the mistake is. The character in the movie who touched my heart the most was Richard. Which of these sentences are correct?
Who?
Very good. The word that is incorrect here. Why is it incorrect?
Because who in there?
It's because Richard is a person. This who is a relative pronoun. They're talking about a person, a character, right? It was Richard. Right here, they're not talking, that is more like things. So if you're talking about a person, you need to make sure you're using the word who, not the word that. This right here is incorrect. This is a relative pronoun right here, but you need to use the correct relative pronoun. Why is this incorrect?
That's incorrect because it's a person.
Yes, because the character is a person. And we know that because we have his name right here.
Wait, what if the character was like an animal?
Yeah, and you would have to make sure, then that would be correct. And sometimes you can use who if the animal is speaking in like fables and things like that. But most of the time we use who as a person, to replace a person. Who is a relative pronoun, it replaces a person. Not things, not animals, unless it's in a fable for an animal. We are going to talk about the word whose. Have you guys been waiting for that? Whose. Now, we're going to look at it and see how to use them in a sentence. And I want you to tell me what you think that this is doing in this sentence. What part of speech is it acting like? I do not know whose jacket that is. Think about that. Think about that sentence. Whose jacket is that? Now I put it in a question. Think about what this is. Now, can you find out who's taking that jacket to Daniel? So whose jacket did we find out whose it was?
Daniel.
Daniel. So we know whose jacket it is, correct? Now, so what is whose acting like? What part of speech is it in here? It is a pronoun, but it is a
adjective.
Nice, it's an adjective. This is called a possessive pronoun. It functions as an adjective. Now we have it functioning as something else, but I'm focusing on one thing right now so you can get it down in your mind so you're going to understand what it means. So look how who, whom, and whose, they all go together. That means that they replace a person. If you are using the relative pronoun whose, you are talking about a person. Now, you can also use it in fables for animals, but if you are using that in a regular sentence, a regular paragraph, or in your books, then you need to use whose. That replaces a person. Relative pronouns replace people. Look at this. Whose jacket? They're asking a question. Whose jacket is that? See, it's asking the question, whose jacket? Right? So this is acting as an adjective for jacket. Daniel's jacket. Daniel's jacket. Right? Whose is a possessive pronoun. You are asking a question to find the owner. You're going to ask that. Can you find out who's taking that jacket to Daniel? What's this whose?
Who is?
Who is. It's a completely different word. It's a subject and a verb. This right here, it's an auxiliary verb. It's the helping verb that's helping this verb. I'm going to read this again. If you are using the relative pronoun whose, you are talking about a person. Are all of the relative pronouns. That, which, who, whom. That, which, who, whom. Let's say it again. That, which, who, whom. It's important that you understand what the relative pronouns are because they replace, like the relative pronouns are replacing people, and then the others are replacing things, right? And they can act, when they are functioning as a relative pronoun, they can act as what? Subjects, right? They can act as your subjects. So it's important that for you to understand what they are. and sit in object positions. They can sit in the subject position, right? They can sit in the subject position, they can sit in object positions. That's why it's important for you to know. But they are pronouns and they have antecedents. What's an antecedent?
An antecedent is a noun that's being replaced.
Very good. The antecedent is the noun that has been replaced by the pronoun. So like right here, who's right here? Daniel has been replaced. Daniel it's Daniel's jacket. I don't know who, I mean, obviously it wouldn't fit in the sentence. I do not know Daniel jacket, what that is. I mean, it wouldn't fit there, but we just still know that it's being replaced. Whose is a possessive pronoun. You are asking a question to find the owner. That's what you're going to do. You're going to ask a question to find the owner. Whose. These are different words right here. Boom. It's and its. Whose and whose. There, and there, and there. Theirs and theirs. These are different words, right? But these right here, it's, whose, there, and theirs, these are possessive pronouns. These possess something. It's leaves, whose house, their car. Mothers bring me theirs to teach. Now obviously this one we need to know beforehand what we're talking about, because this is replacing. We have to have an antecedent. Even though these are still adjectives right here, you guys, they still have antecedents. They're part of the pronoun family, even though they're adjectives. And this one right here stands alone. These ones go before, right here, they go before the noun. This one stands alone. It stands for it is or it has, depending on the following word. Is right here is putting us in what tense is putting us in right here? Progressive. Daniel, what tense is this sitting us in? The perfect tense. So depending on what word follows it, you're going to know if it stands for is or has. Now look, subject, verb, subject, verb, subject, verb. Look, this it's leaves, it's possessive. So you need to understand the difference between the two. Whose stands for who is or who has. Now right here is putting us in the progressive tense. Has is putting us in the perfect tense. So depending on what's following it, then you're going to know if this right here is going to be who is or who has. But no matter what, this is a contraction. If you have an apostrophe, it's a contraction. Now, there stands for they are, and there right here stands for there are. Or we can have there all by itself that says the exact same sound. Fun, huh? Now look, this is a subject and a verb, subject and a verb, subject and a verb, subject and a verb, but this isn't. It's their car. This is possessing, completely different word. But these are still fitting into the pronoun family, even though they're possessive. But you need to know where they fit, because they're still replacing something, and you still need to know that they have an antecedent. These still have antecedents. Theirs stands for there is or there has. What tense is this putting us in, Dan?
Perfect.
Perfect tense. Paul, what tense is this putting us in?
Progressive.
Progressive tense. Now, if we did this right here in our sentences, then we know exactly what tense we are in. But if we did this, are we going to know?
No.
No, we're only going to know with the following word. That's how we're going to know. It's really interesting. So when I was working with Ellie the other day, I was really noticing how we say this all of the time in our regular speech. Do we put contractions in our professional writing. We do not use contractions in our professional writing. Now, we use contractions when we are quoting exactly what somebody said. Now, when you actually really listen in English, we use contractions in our speaking all the time. And I really realized that when I was working with somebody that doesn't speak the English language, and she's confused about the contractions and how that functions in our language. And then I realized, wow, we really say a lot of contractions. As I'm working with her, I can hear myself saying contractions all of the time, and then trying to explain to her what those contractions actually mean. So this is not informal writing. So you do not use this in formal writing unless what? When do we use this? When we're quoting somebody, when we're quoting their actual dialogue, when we are putting their dialogue in quotes, in their exact words. And then we find out, yes, we use contractions all the time in our daily speaking, which really confuses people that don't live in the United States or don't actually speak the English language. Let's reiterate. It's means it is or it has. Whose means who is or who has. Subject, verb, subject, verb, subject, verb, subject, verb. Subject, verb. There means they are. There means there are. Subject, verb, subject, verb, subject, verb, subject, verb. Theirs means there is or there has. Subject, verb, subject, and verb. What tense is this one in?
Progressive.
Progressive tense. What tense is this in?
Perfect.
Perfect. What tense is this in?
We don't know.
We don't know. We won't know until you have the following verb. It could be both. What tense is this in?
Progressive.
What tense is this in?
Progressive.
What tense is this in?
Progressive.
Progressive.
Verb.
What tense is this in?
I'm tired.
No, what tense is this in?
Progressive.
What tense is this in?
Okay, Mom.
Come on.
Progressive.
What tense is this in, Paul?
Perfect.
What tense is this in?
Progressive.
What tense is this in?
Perfect.
What tense is this one in?
Progressive.
What tense is this in?
Perfect.
Now, perfect, Paul, perfect. Okay, now remember, these can also stand as be verbs. Right here. These can also stand as be verbs, or they can be their helping verbs. So whichever, it just depends on how you're constructing your sentence. What tense is this in, Paul?
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know for sure. It could be both. It could be its very own be verb. Which would be in what if it's a be verb? Simple. Right? It would be in simple tense. If it's the be verb. If this is acting as bees, then they are in the simple tense. Look at this sentence. I think it's going to be cold today. Which it's are we going to use?
The first one is.
It is. Now, if you do not understand which one you need to use, break it apart. Pull it out of your contraction and see if it works. This is it is going. And look, we have our progressive verb right here that tells us it's going to be its. I think it is going to be cold today. So we know this is the subject and your verbs. Okay? Did you hear there's a noisy party at the park? Which one are you going to use? Theirs or theirs?
The first one.
Yeah, theirs. As in there is. Now let's pull it out. Did you hear there is a noisy party at the park? Pull it out if you do not know. So, what tense is this? Right, and this is considered a linking verb right here, right? Yep, that's considered a linking verb because you have a party going on. There is a party. So this is functioning as a linking verb right here. Now, I want to be home when they're driving up to the house. That's what I like to be when we have our family come home. Nice, very good. Now, I want to be home when they are driving up to the house. So break it apart. I really want you to see. If you're not sure, if you do not have this solid, break it apart to they are. They are. Can you break? So if you can break it apart and it makes sense. So look, this is your verb, your plural auxiliary verb with your progressive tense. So this is the progressive tense because we have our ing right here. Did you ask if it's okay to play with Chad's game? It's his favorite. Which one are we going to use?
First one.
The first one where? Right here? It's. So, did you ask if it is okay to play with Chad's game? Completely correct. Subject and a verb. What about over here? It's right here, right? Let's pull it apart. It is his favorite. So, what's it's replacing? It's your subject and a verb. It is replacing game. See right there? These all right here, they are pronouns. And they're replacing something. They have antecedents. At their tulip festival, there are 800 different varieties. Okay, let's look at this one. Which one are you going to do? Okay, nice. There. It's their tulips. If we say, listen to this, if we pull this out, at they are tulip festival, does that sound goofy? It sounds completely goofy. So it's possessing the tulips. It's their tulips. Now, as you can tell, I just went to the tulip festival with a dear friend of mine, and anyways, we had a really great time together. So what about this one?
Second one.
This one right here?
Yeah.
This one. T-H-E-R-E, it stands for there are 800 different. If we are using that as ordinal numbers, are we going to spell it out? No. We do not spell out ordinal numbers after 9th. We write them out. The colors of the tulips show their magnificence in their petals. What are we showing here?
Third one.
The third one there.
I agree because it's describing tulips.
Yeah, it's magnificence is describing tulips. Show their magnificence, the magnificent tulips. See how you can say that? If I can put this in front of tulips and it completely makes sense, you know you have an adjective. Now how about in their petals? Which one?
Second.
This one right here. I didn't put the other one up because I ran out of space, and it's their petals. This there is describing petals, right? This is an adjective. This red tulip seems to show off its petals better than the others. What do we do here?
Second.
Yeah, this right here is functioning as a possessive pronoun. What's this functioning as? Possessive pronoun. Who's going to stay with Lisa while I purchase the red velvet bulbs?
Who is?
Nice. Who is? Subject, verb, helping verb. These are your verbs. Who's going to stay? Now how about here? Whose pretty pink bulb is this? Whose pretty pink bulb is this? It's asking the question, whose pretty pink bulb is this? This is whose pretty pink bulb. It's still right here. This is the proper one. Rewrite this sentence.
This is
Whose pretty pink bulb. So what's it acting as?
It's an adjective.
Right there. It's possessive. It's a possessive pronoun right there. This is the correct one, not this. Apostrophes, what are these called? Right here. What are these called?
Apostrophes.
Apostrophes. These are called apostrophes. Apostrophes with pronouns equal contractions. These are contractions. Look at these. Yours, his, hers, ours, theirs, its. Never take the apostrophe. These will never take apostrophes right here. So you need to remember that. Go over these. Say them.
Yours, his, hers, ours, theirs, its.
Paul?
Yours, his, hers, ours, theirs, its.
They never take apostrophes. Apostrophes with pronouns, they equal contractions. Now, relative pronouns help show what they are talking about in essential and non-essential clauses. What is an essential clause? Essential clauses are clauses that need to stay in the sentence. And if we're using an essential clause and we're starting it out with the word that means it's essential. But non-essential clauses means that it's great information, but it can be taken out. We can understand really what they're talking about, and those should be started with the word which, if you're going to use those two pronouns. What, when, and where can also be functioning as relative pronouns once in a while. What are our relative pronouns again? Who, whom, and whose, right? Who, whom, and whose. Which and that. Who, whom, and whose, which and that. And then what are some of the other ones that can be? What, when, and where. Who, whom, and whose, which and that. Those are our main relative pronouns. What, when, and where, they can also function as relative pronouns. Our main ones are what?
Who, whom, and whose.
Which and that. Relative pronouns can be placed in the object position. What's the object position? Which one do we use in the object position when we're talking about? Which one?
Whom.
Whom. Nice. That one is the object position. What's this one?
Who.
Subject position. And what's this one?
Adjective.
This is a possessive pronoun adjective position. The relative pronoun we use depends on its antecedent. So depending on what the antecedent is, if it's a person, we're going to use these. If it's not a person, what are we going to use? Which and that. So if it's not a person, that's what we're going to use. But these replace people. So it just depends on the antecedent that we have. All right, everybody, we will see you in the next lesson.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for the next lesson.